The truth occurs.
Hi everyone, I just want to give you an update about what's been going on since I found out that my son likely has, is on the autism spectrum. You might be saying to yourself, Sonia, what's going on with your hair? Well, my hair is like a barometer for my stress level. So it's connected directly to my brain. So the more my brain is fried, the more my hair is fried. So the fact that my hair looks like this kind of gives you an idea of how I've been feeling lately. Well, I've been basically through the maze of the medical system, the ASD medical system maze, looking for cheese and having a hard time finding it. So I've been looking for the cheese, and let me show you how this has gone so far. So first of all, my son's having trouble at school and in other areas of his life, but he needs a diagnosis in order to be provided with services and accommodations at school. So I took him to the doctor. So the doctor suspects ASD or PDD-NOS, refers me to the Autism Spectrum Disorder Clinic. Unfortunately, when I call the clinic, it turns out he's too old. He's too old, and there's a 2-year wait, even if he wasn't too old. So they referred me to the medical clinic. Medical clinic referred me to the social worker. Now, I didn't like the sound of that one bit. I said to myself, what does a social worker have to do with this? Everybody knows that social workers are nosy parkers who get involved in all areas of your life and make your life hell. Now, you just remember this. I'm the social worker, and the social worker is always right. So I actually contacted someone who'd been down that road, and they did confirm that the social worker was indeed a nosy parker and who kind of got involved in all areas of their life, and that they had to basically submit to whatever the social worker said. It's like once you're in the system, you're in it all the way, and you're basically like, your ass is theirs. You just have to do whatever they say, or it's like you have some kind of problem if you don't want to go along with it. And in his case, this led to some psychiatric evaluations, a little bit of occupational therapy, and the end result was meds, which is exactly what we're trying to avoid. So I said, okay, well that doesn't sound like something I want to do. That doesn't sound like the route I want to take. So next option, a private clinic. Only problem is, yeah, it costs $2,000 just for an assessment. And that's just to find out what's wrong with your kid. Then if you want to have any kind of therapies and stuff, well that costs a lot of money. So the clinic, the problem with the clinic was the cost there was prohibitive. So this brings me back kind of to where I started, which was the doctor who suspected my son had ASD. So the other option then was biomed testing. That's what I wanted to do anyway, so he referred us to a DAN doctor. Unfortunately, this is where the government got in the way because they had put her out of business, probably for curing people. Other option was to stick with the same doctor that we have, who's not really an expert, and do the biomed testing with him. Yes, they cost a lot of money, but they would be worth it if they help you figure out what the problem is. You could also skip those tests and go directly to just doing interventions such as chelation, HBOT, GAPS diet, or supplements. These are the treatments that people have used to recover their kids from autism spectrum disorder. I mean, I've known several people who've done that, so in the end, those are what works. Only problem for us is the DAN doctor has been put out of business by the government, and the regular doctor is really not an expert in this. So I guess what you could do if you have a limited amount of money and you'd rather invest it in the therapy rather than just in the diagnostics, but you can't get the help of a DAN doctor because they've been put out of business by the government, then you could just inform yourself, take a guess, try it, and pray. The biomed interventions are probably the most important thing, but I get the impression that my son also needs some kind of therapy. I don't know, occupational therapy or play therapy or something. But the therapy, if you remember from the private clinic, which is the only way we could get it without going through the social worker nosy parkers and waiting 2 years to end up on meds. What do you mean you don't want to put him on Ritalin? Are you saying you're going to withhold medical treatment from your child? Private clinic. The therapy's there, but it just costs you a lot of money. The alternative would be read books, do it yourself, try at-home therapy, and turn to Jenny McCarthy. My hero. So this is basically the maze that I've gone through, and in the end, I feel like I kind of ended up where I was in the first place. I find that it's very hard to get any help. Dan doctor's gone. They ran her out of town. So in the end, I'm back to the internet. I'm kind of back to having to research things myself. And the doctor that we have is helpful. He's willing to, you know, do pretty much any kind of testing we want, but he's not really sure necessarily. I mean, it's not his area of expertise. So it's like, I just feel kind of like, I feel kind of alone. Not alone, I mean, I have some support from my friends, but in terms of on the medical end of it, recovering him, I feel like, you know, I have to just kind of figure a lot of it out myself. Well, this is Canada, and we're supposed to have free medical care, but as you see, it's really not that simple. You still basically have to have bought private insurance to have access to proper help, unless you want to go through the social worker nosy Parkers. So we don't have insurance, so we're just kind of, we got to decide what we're going to do with the money that we do have. We want to invest it in the thing that's going to be the most helpful to him. So, you know, that's where I'm at with it now. And I just want to let you know what it's like. And for people who have really severely autistic kids, it's the same thing up here in Canada. Don't think that just because we have socialized medicine that your kid has a problem, you get in, you get all the support you need. No, they pay a lot of money out of pocket. Thousands and thousands of dollars every year. And it drains them financially and emotionally. It's very stressful. So, you know, they have all my sympathy because they're dealing with a much more severe problem. But even just for someone like me, you know, I see my son needs some kind of help, and look at what I have to deal with the medical system. In the end, I'm going to turn to Jenny McCarthy in the bookstore and the internet, and of course our private integrative medicine doctor, because that's probably what's going to be the most helpful to me. So that's my update. Leave me your comments. I think my neighbors just heard me. And thanks for listening to me, and I'll see you next time.